Hello, dear students. Welcome to the second part of the explanation of Adrian Rich's poem, Snapshots of a Daughter-in-Law. In this lecture, I'll explain stanza 2 of her poem. In the first stanza, we have seen that the daughter-in-law finds herself very constrained in the way she lives in the house, bound to the four walls, and she knows that she's talented, exceptional, and she finds that she's still unable to use that talent. First of all, I'll read the stanza 2 to you. Banging the coffee pot into the sink, she hears the angels chiding and looks out past the raked gardens to the sloppy sky. Only a week since they said, have no patience. The next time it was, be insatiable. Then, save yourself. Others you cannot save. Sometimes she let the tap stream scald her arm, a match burned to her thumbnail, or held her hand above the cattle's snout right into the woolly steam. They are probably angels, since nothing hurts her anymore except each morning's grit blowing into her eyes. Now, in this stanza, we see how the day of the daughter-in-law goes by and the everyday chores she performs, but all the images that are from everyday work, like banging of the coffee pot in the sink and doing all the household chores, she remembers. There's it's not just that she's very much into the daily chores that she's doing. Parallel to what she is doing, she's almost does all these things absent-mindedly, as if she is lost. Parallel to what she is doing every day, the same kind, following the same kind of routine, she hears some voices. Now, who are these voices? So she believes that maybe there are some guardian angels who look at everything she has been doing, and they try to make her understand. They sometimes scold her even, and that she should do something about it. But just look at the image. She bangs the coffee pot. Clearly, uh, there is no need to bang the coffee pot into the sink unless you are irritated, unless you are restless. So this image reflects her restlessness. And she, parallelly, while she's doing this job, she hears these angels and they seem to be saying that, what are you doing? This is not what you're meant for. And she looks out past the raked gardens. Even the gardens, the word raked has been used. Even the gardens, they do not bring any kind of peace or any kind of harmony to her. Even the sky, which might look beautiful, looks sloppy to her. And these angels say that you cannot rely on patience. You can't just go on like this. And then next they say, be insatiable. It's almost like as if they are questioning her that how can you be satisfied with the things that are there around you? And then on, they go on to say that save yourself, others you cannot save. So the point is very clear that if the daughter-in-law has to save herself, she cannot rely on anyone, and she cannot even dream of saving others because, in the first place, she needs to be saved herself. So sometimes now absent-mindedly listening these to these voices, sometimes she hurts herself. She let the tap stream scald her arm and she doesn't notice it. Or maybe she'll burn a matchstick and up to the thumbnail. Or she will take her hand and hold it above the kettle's snout from which the steam comes out and it hurts the hand. But then again, she does not notice all these things. Remember, all these things are, physical in nature and they do cause pain. But she is so lost. She is so not here that she does not seem to pay any kind of attention. to the kind of physical pain she's getting by doing all these things. Now, then the poem says they are probably angels, since nothing hurts her anymore, except each morning's grit blowing into her eyes. The point is that internally she is so hurt with the situation that this external physical kind of any kind of pain, it seems to have and it seems to have stopped having any kind of meaning. And when Adrian Rich says that, except each morning's grit blowing into her eyes, so morning in a way, it brings about hope. But in her case, this morning's grit tells her that her days will remain the same as they have always been, and there's no hope of escape here. Well, in the last slide, I explained the meaning to you, that how this daughter-in-law feels. And as I've told you earlier, as a base kind of explanation, I've used this article by Jeevan Kumar. And let's see what he has to say about it. He says that in the second stanza, Rich uses domestic metaphors to illuminate the torturous and slave-like aspect of what she terms in her essay all enforced conditions under which women live subject to men. Adrienne Rich said this in 1993 in one essay that she wrote. She imagines the woman to be hearing probably angels who tell her to be impatient, to be insatiable, and to save herself because she cannot save others. The angels in the house tell her that the woman is barely conscious of hurting herself in the hot water from the tap, or the fire from a matchstick, or the stream from a kettle. But the angels say to her that she is already so emotionally and perhaps even physically bruised and battered that nothing hurts her anymore. This is what I told you in a way. But just see that, my point of emphasis is on the fact that she is parallelly living in two worlds. She does not at all enjoy the kind of world she's living in, the kind of things that she's doing, repeatedly doing, following the same kind of routine day in and day out. And there are voices in her head. You may name them as the voices of some angels who want her to break free from all these shackles and to be herself. And whether they are angels or whether this is the voice of her own consciousness that tells her to do so, one thing is very clear, that this kind of dichotomy in a character, it is understandable that it cannot go on for long. Thank you.